All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining. We're thrilled to have this discussion about retirement elsewhere, Dominican Republic for Canadians. It's no sort of secret that Dominican Republic is frequently visited by many Canadians. Actually, there's approximately 1 million visitors that go to the Dominican Republic from Canada per year. And a fun fact, I got married in Punta Cana in 2012, actually, as a destination wedding. So that's something that, will always kind of be part of my own journey. And depending on where you're joining from on this call, if you're anywhere in Toronto or in the surroundings, then the weather is pretty bad right now. We've got a serious snowstorm coming. So the topic for today, pretty appropriate for those who are thinking of warmer climates in retirement. For some, it could also be a combination of the cost of living factors. And before we sort of dive in, I want to touch on another sort of interesting sort of Canadian and Dominican sort of overlap that I came across. So Canada does send many tourists to Dominican Republic, and for that exchange, Dominican Republic sent some of their star baseball players, as we all know, Joey Bats, Vladimir Guerrero. So there's always been that relationship between Canada and the Dominican Republic. Now, for today, what we're going to sort of go through, so I'm going to share the agenda. Bit of a welcome and introduction for anyone that's joining for the first time. I want to introduce myself to you, and then for those who joined before, always happy that you're able to join these sessions that I've been hosting now for going on 6 years. As usual, when people join, it's always good for me to get a sense, and as well as our presenter, who is joining, and we'll do a Slido poll. And then I'll introduce Brett, who's joining us from Dominican Republic. He's got a pretty interesting story. And it's one of the reasons why I've asked him to come to sort of talk about the Dominican Republic from his lens, which will be helpful for those joining today. And then we'll leave some time on the tail end for Q&A. So we'll try to get that started by about 12:45 and try to end promptly at 1 p.m. because we're aware this is a lunch and learn, so folks are likely joining on their lunch break. As I mentioned, for those who are joining for the first time, my name is Orlando Lopez. I'm an investment advisor here at RBC Dominion Securities. I'm a financial planner. Wear numerous hats. And I've been in the industry now for going on 16 years. My time here at RBC is 6 years. Prior to that, I was in another financial institution for about 11 years. And while in that role, I also taught finance at York. So pretty much my passion surrounds sharing my knowledge with individuals, whatever the platform, whether that might be a classroom, in a teaching setting, or one-on-one with clients, as well, or presentations, virtual and in person. And outside of that, community is really important to me, community and family. So you'll usually find me in one of those places or overlapping those things, community, family, and the passion of sharing my knowledge with folks. And as I mentioned earlier, we will, yep, I'll get the next slide up. Okay. So the time difference, there's only a 1 hour time difference between us and Dominican Republic. So Brett right now is probably 11 a.m. for you, a little bit after 11, 12:03 for us. There's a bigger temperature difference. So I checked this morning what the temperature was in Dominican Republic, 27 degrees Celsius. We're at 2 and with a lot of snow coming. So big temperature difference, very small time difference between the two. So just something that I wanted to share. Now, as I mentioned, if you are using a computer device, you can open up another tab just to get to the Slido. Just input slido.com, and you can input the numbers there. Or if you've got a cell phone handy, you can just use the QR code. So let me get the first question. Okay, so first thing, just out of curiosity, has anyone on the call, have you visited the Dominican Republic before? Yes or no? Have you ever visited the Dominican Republic? Right. Bit of neck and neck. Well, give it a little bit more time for a few more. So again, slido.com, and on the bottom left, you'll see the number 135483. So more people voted, still half and half. So Brett, you probably first need to talk about reasons to visit for a couple of people that are joining.
There's lots of people there that I think have been here, so this is a good thing.
Yeah, okay. That's good to see that evolve. So definitely most of you have been to the Dominican Republic, but there's still a few that have not been. Okay. Next one. Now, when you think about this topic, are you considering snowbirding at that stage in life, or are you more thinking about full-time relocation? Wherever that might be, which the Dominican Republic could be there. So is it more of a back and forth during the winter months, or full-time relocation? So that one is leaning towards the snowbirding, 92%. Very interesting. All right. And if you were to one full-time relocation or snowbird, are you more thinking about renting long-term or owning over the long term? Okay. Okay, that one changed. So majority, not yet sure, on the fence. And then a real tie here, Bert, between renting and owning. All right. And where does Dominican Republic fall in your list of overseas retirement destinations? Is it the number one? Is it in the top two, top three, top four, top five on your list? Because again, especially for those who haven't been there, you're likely thinking of other places. So where does it sort of fall on your list? That's real interesting. So either in the top five or fully committed. Oh, one got bumped a little bit. So top five majority, and then followed by top three. Just earlier, number one was kind of second. Okay, that's pretty helpful. And what's one aspect about retirement in Dominican Republic? This one you can actually type the response for this one that you're hoping to better understand. Okay, that's helpful. Mortgages, culture, and the people would be part of the culture as well. All right, so I'm gonna have to reference this again, but just to keep you. So we'll touch on a couple of these. We won't get to touch on all, but for sure, you're sort of seeing where most of the preference is, right? So definitely, Brett's gonna touch on mortgages. Cost of living is a key one, and as well, cost to rent, cost to buy. So we can kind of see where the priority is. So for sure, Brett, you got to start with the cost piece, and then we'll tie in some of the other ones as well. Real estate investing valuation. Okay. And yeah, that was the last one. All right. So I appreciate you sharing with that. And without any more hesitation, I want to introduce you to Brett. And I will say that finding Brett and finding someone like Brett was like finding a needle in a haystack. I very intentionally, when I was putting this together, wanted to find, I mean, it's not hard to find individuals in real estate or realtors in Dominican Republic. But I wanted somebody who also had some experience with the Canadian culture, who had lived in Canada as well. So that was a little bit harder. in that respect. And I was eventually able to come across and to connect with Brett, had a good conversation. So Brett, I'll probably first ask you to share with folks that have joined your journey, prior to the Dominican Republic, and then what took you to the Dominican Republic, and now doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks. Actually, thanks for having me. Nice to meet everyone here. So my name's Brett, Brett Henry. I'm actually from Saskatchewan, which is way colder than you guys, and we got the storm before you. But so my background, or what brought me here to the Dominican Republic, I mean, it's been a long time. I invested down here 23 years ago, but I started my life as a police officer. I was a police officer for 20 years in Saskatchewan. While I was policing, I built homes. I had a construction company on the side, so I was used to that. I was into rental properties and owning rental properties and things like that, which is what allowed me to retire a little bit earlier than most. We have an early retirement plan where I worked at 20 years. So I got out at that point. But what brought me down here actually was a friend of mine had ended up buying a bar. He was a Canadian police officer as well. And that was 23 years ago that we ended up buying the bar in a small town called Cabarete. Cabarete is where I currently am. I'm in Cabarete, Sosua. Most of you guys might know the area of Puerto Plata, but I'll get into that. I'll tell you guys about the island and everything about it. But like I said, I was a police officer before I came down here. I had zero intentions of working. When I got down here, I thought, maybe I got to do something, because I was able to retire for about 6 weeks or so, and then I needed to do something. So I got into real estate, and then I found my business partner, who is actually from the Toronto area. And we looked at the real estate down here and we thought, well, why don't we build a brokerage that focuses on Canadians and North American expats? So that's what we did. We created Realtor DR, and we focus mainly on the needs of Canadian expats and American expats. We do have obviously Europeans and things like that, but we focus mainly on the Canadians and Americans. So I'll give you, that's a little bit about myself. I'll get into a little bit about the Dominican Republic and why here. So one, yes, I ended up buying a bar here 23 years ago. It was probably the best decision I ever made in my whole life. I seen that there was a question on there about safety. So knowing that I have a background in policing, this is probably one of the safest places I've ever lived. I've done a wallet test down here where I've taken my wallet with my money, not with any pertinent ID, but with enough ID that I would get it back, and I threw it out onto the street and I waited, and I actually got it back with my money. I gave a tip when I got it back. To say there's no crime here, that's a lie. There is crime anywhere that you go. There's, if you're looking for trouble, you're going to find trouble. Down here, the best way I can describe this place is think the good old days. Whenever that is for you, the good old days, let's say like 1972, right? There's rules and stuff, but no one's on top of you down here. No one's, making you do this or making you do that. When you were a kid and you were able to go out and run around and not feel, that something was going to happen. That's kind of what it's like here. Now, where I live in the Dominican is on the north coast. So give you the landscape of this whole island. This island is actually quite large. It consists of two countries, the Dominican Republic, which is the #1 country in the Caribbean. There's 26 countries in the Caribbean when we talk about the Caribbean. And then we have Haiti. Haiti's the worst one. Haiti's 26, not because of them. It's geopolitical stuff, and then there's the Dominican. What's nice about the Dominican Republic, and a lot of people don't know this, is it's a little bit bigger than Belgium. So it's not a small island, it's a large island. So the island itself is called Hispaniola, and it's the second largest landmass in the Caribbean. But what makes it unique and nice is that we have a topography that's different than all the other islands. We have the highest peaks next to the Rocky Mountains. We have a place called Pico Duarte, which is
So
over
you're
10.
up here, right? You're on the north side.
That's right. We're on the north
Sosua.
side. Yeah.
But
our mountain ranges are kind of something that's important about the island. Now, why is that important? We haven't had a hurricane on the north coast for over 200 years. Okay, that doesn't mean that the whole Dominican Republic doesn't get hurricanes. We just don't get them on the north coast because there's a mountain range that separates us from Haiti. So everyone always is like, "Oh, is it dangerous there because Haiti's there?" No, Haiti doesn't. The Haitian people and the bad stuff that happens in Haiti actually stays there. The Dominican Republic is absolutely safe. absolutely great. The people down here are amazing. They're always out there to help you. Um, on the North Coast, it's the largest concentration of expats. So you can get around with English. You can get any kind of food that you can think of from back home, because a lot of the grocery stores and stuff are owned by Americans and Canadians in this area. This area in particular is known for kiteboarding, windsurfing, surfing. We have the best surf beach in the Caribbean. We have the best windsurfing, arguably, in the whole world.
Yeah.
Now, into the rest of the country, the Dominican Republic there's about 11 million people that live in the Dominican. Most of the people live on the south coast, and this is where most people know about the Dominican, which is Punta Cana. Everyone's probably heard of Punta Cana. Punta Cana is a great place as well. I have connections all over this island, but Punta Cana is more like Miami and things like that. So the south coast has about 9.5 to 9.6 million people, because the capital city, the greater capital city, is around 4.5 to 6 million people, depending on the time of year. I know that sounds weird, but it just is. There's a lot of transient there. But on the south coast, you have Punta Cana, La Romana, Miches, Santo Domingo, Santiago, and Bayrona.
And when you went 23 years ago, was it straight to Sosua? Is that where you first went, or Punta Cana?
I've been all over this island, and
Yeah.
I picked the north coast because it's because obviously the hurricanes. We don't get the sargassum, like we don't get
For the seaweeds.
the seaweed and stuff like that.
Here's
And
a question for you on the cost piece though, Brett. Give me a sense of when you first went there 23 years ago, what was sort of, I don't know, the price for a two-bedroom versus now? Like, how much has prices changed? And again, the past won't affect people now, but at least they kind of get a sense of what things cost now. And maybe out of curiosity, what did you see back then when you first went there?
the value of homes and stuff we have a gradual rise in the value of homes here because of the way financing happens here, and we'll get into that and explain
Yeah.
how the financing works. But I mean, 23 years ago, we got into things fairly cheap. But the thing is this island hasn't been really recognized like the other islands. If you go out there and you look at Turks and Caicos and Antigua, all the other little islands around and the other little countries, the value there it's astronomical compared to here. We're still, because we're such a large landmass, we still can get really, really good deals here. You can still find great opportunities that are still available here for, especially for what we think is a good deal. I mean, for the Dominican population, it might be quite expensive because there's a big disparity between what a Canadian has and what a Dominican person might make here. Like in general.
What would be an entry point though? What's that entry point?
You know what? Everything ranges here, and this is going to be funny. You're going to laugh, but I have properties that are available from, that 50,000 all the way up to 333 million. There are a lot of, and I'm going to say this just because I think it's relevant, but there's a lot of like movie stars, athletes, and billionaires that come to this island, especially on this north coast and Cap Cana and those other places. But they come here because no one really pays attention to them here. But they could be anywhere in the world, but they decide that they make this place home for 2, 3, 4 months a year, just like the snowbirds and stuff like that. And like I said, they could be anywhere in the world. They decide to come here.
Got you.
It's actually there's a lot of them. It's surprising. It's very surprising. So,
and then touch on the mortgage part. Yeah, I'll let you go, but yeah, definitely want to get the mortgage part.
Yeah. Okay.
So somebody is going in and buying a property, and 300,000. Maybe they don't want something that's for 50. If they were to require financing, what's
my recommendation for financing? So all the prices that you're going to see on properties in the Dominican are going to be based in US dollar. Okay, so that's how things are sold here. As a Canadian, that's a huge deal right now because of our dollar and stuff like that. When someone's looking for financing down here, I first ask them to maybe look in Canada, do like a HELOC, like to do a home line of credit. That's your best bet. Financing terms down here are usually a lot higher than in Canada. Like your interest rates are 8 to 12%, which is kind of high. But there is a lot of you can get into owner financing down here. You can be super creative down here. We don't have the restrictions, like I said, 1972 or even before. We have a lot of different options for things of that nature. When it comes to the banking down here, though, the banks only loan 30. They'll only loan on 70% of the value of the home. So you got to have a minimum of 30% down. And that being said, it's on the registered value of the home. So it's the DGI value of the home. So some homes here, again, 1972, some homes, they register the value of the home and the contents inside. So you only pay the taxes on what the value of the home is. So a home may sell or be for sale for like 350,000, but it might only be registered for 170,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen people were asking about taxes. The tax rate down here on property is 1%, but there is no tax for anyone over 65. So this is a good place to retire. When it comes to Airbnb and rentals and things like that, again, that's up to, you know, the homeowner and buyer to claim. But there's not really, there is income tax and stuff here, but you have to make it over a threshold, and you're not like, unless you're buying like mini hotels and stuff, you're probably not going to break that threshold. So there really isn't an income tax. I mean, you might have to claim something in Canada if you bring it back to Canada, but in most cases you won't, because you'll utilize it down here. That's the what usually happens.
For the folks that, if you're gonna still maintain residency, then Canadian, CRA rules require you to claim your worldwide income. So those that are not gonna leave and exit the country and sort of no longer a resident, still a citizen but no longer a resident, then you'd still be required to file taxes on your worldwide income. But for those who no longer residents, then that would be different.
Yeah, you can claim as non-resident and it's 15%, right?
Yeah.
So speak me some of the questions that were asked there, because now I'll answer some of these.
Yeah, so there was the cost of living. Now let's say, which is a big topic right now with inflation. I'm not sure how long was the last time you sort of came back, but probably touch on that part. How do things, how do things cost day-to-day living wise?
You know what, I travel a lot. I travel globally quite a bit because I hub out of here. I'm like most of you guys that I seen that are on here in this poll. I'm a lot like you. I came here and I hub from here, and I go back to Canada in the summertime because it's great. And then I go to Europe in the fall, and I stay down here, and I kind of go all over the place. But the cost of living when you first come down here is very similar to back home, because you get gringoed, right? You have to get used to where to shop and how to shop. But once you're down here living here, it's probably about 2/3 the cost of living back home. It can be a lot cheaper if you feel like living locally, like if you're into the local foods and stuff. The one nice thing that we do have is that we have 365 days a year of growing. So there's always avocados, always there's an abundance of fruits and vegetables on this island. Everything is basically organic when you come here, like you're buying fruits and vegetables. So that's, where your costs are back in Canada. The healthier you eat here, the cheaper it is for you to live. Pork and chicken is extremely cheap. Eggs are cheap. All your fruits and vegetables are cheap.
Gotcha.
So entertainment wise, I mean, there's always something going on, free concerts, free stuff going on. If you want to lay on the beach, it's cheap. Golf memberships down here at our golf course that we have, which is a PGA rated golf course. Okay? It's a good rate golf course. So just for you golfers out there, just to give you the standard of living, it's $500 a year for the membership, which means 12 months of play. And then for $40, you get your round, a golf cart, and a caddy. So, and 6 beer.
Okay.
Don't forget about the 6 beer.
That's attractive. Okay. Well, here's I gotta play devil's advocate, bro. So here's a big question for you, which kind of just popped up. But in your experience, because I gotta play devil's advocate on behalf of those joining and for clients, what have you seen as the reasons for people who maybe moved to the Dominican Republic as retirees and then left? What have you seen as those reasons?
Sometimes you have people that come and they can't get accustomed to the lifestyle, right? Like things down here, the driving is a little bit chaotic. So think Mario Kart. You know, the island time. So some people can't get used to island time. So if someone says they're, you know, it's going to be done in an hour and a half, it's probably tomorrow that it's going to get done. You know, it's just it's trying to acclimate to the lifestyle down here. It's a slower pace. It probably takes you at least 4 months to get used to the pace of things because no one's in a rush, no one's in a hurry, and I can explain that to people. It's very I've done this many times. It's like we're so used to seasons and having to have be on a time frame, right? You know, because if we don't get everything done in the summer, it's going to be fall and then it's going to be winter and we better have everything because there's going to be a snowstorm and we're going to get stuck in and we're not going to be able to watch the hockey game today, you know. And so we have this mentality of we got to get done. Down here, it's like mañana, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. So what happens is with the culture is that they know that you can set your watch to the weather. Okay, it's going to be 22 to 34 degrees every single day. It's going to rain for an hour at some point during the day. It always does because we're in a tropical place, but it only rains for about an hour. And the sun's going to rise at 6 o'clock and it's going to set at 6:30 every single day. And that's what slows the pace down. So some people can't get used to that, and it frustrates them, right? And that's what makes them go home. So it's just like I said, it's just trying to get used to the lifestyle.
Have you noticed most of these people that couldn't get accustomed? How long did they last? A year or just months before they
What I
just
recommend, what I recommend when people want to move down here is slow is fast. You know what I mean? It's a marathon, not a sprint. Come down, rent a place, you know, come down for a couple weeks, then come down for a month, then come down for 2 months. Sure that you know you dip your toe in and then because by the time you're used to living down here, when I go back to Canada and the US, I get anxiety the opposite way. You know, when I'm on the road, I'm making sure that my seatbelt's on. I'm making sure I'm looking over my shoulders. I'm making sure I'm not speeding because down here, those stresses, we don't have them, right? So when I go back, those stresses, I feel them. So
reverse culture shock for you.
It is. It's the exact thing. So, but when people come down here, it is the culture shock because I feel, and like I said, I was a police officer for 20 years.
Yeah.
I feel that we have true freedom down here again, and we're not used to it as Canadians and North Americans, and we're used to regulations and rules, and well, you shouldn't be able to do that, even though you know it's fine. You're like, well, we can't do that in Canada. We can't do that in the States. How can you do it here? Like, for instance, let's say you wanted to start a barbecue business. Okay, I've seen this happen. A guy on the side of the road put a barbecue on the side of the road, started selling hot dogs. Okay, no license, no nothing. Then a month and a half later, he's got 2 barbecues and 2 chairs. The next month, he's got 2 barbecues, a table, and chairs. The next month, he's got 5 tables, 3 barbecues, a tent over top of his place, and he's selling alcohol and stuff, and no one's bothering him, right? And I know that's an analogy that seems like, oh wow, that's a great thing, blah, blah, blah. But for us as Canadians that are used to regulation, it's like, how could he do that? How is this? It happens for a lot of things, right? The other thing is that like the culture down here is they're so giving and they're so welcoming. They'll always say yes, even if they don't know like something. And that sometimes frustrates people because they don't understand, right? Like when you come down here and you're living here and you're like, well, why don't they understand how to do this or understand how to do that or do this? You're bringing your Canadian culture down here and expecting this is why people don't stay, right?
Plus the language piece too, Brett. I guess it could be a combination too. Yeah, the English to Spanish, and then even with 2 cultures that might be both English. In some cultures, things people don't like to say no, so that might even be twofold. But I like what you said earlier, which I always encourage people to do because I've done this. We talk about different locations. Is to try before you buy, and not necessarily to just get too caught up in the romance period. But if what you just suggested, which is you go, yes, you visit for those who've never been, then you go and you stay a little bit longer, right? And you know, you sort of and I think what's really important is not to look at it as, okay, I'm retiring in Dominican Republic, but I'm retiring in Punta Cana. Like you got to get as local because every spot will have a different culture to it in that sense too.
Well, yeah, people need to think that too, because a lot of times when people come down here, they haven't come down to Airbnb. They've only gone to all inclusives. An all inclusive is an all inclusive is an all inclusive. Those are all the same. I don't care if you're going to Mexico, you're coming to the Dominican Republic, you're going wherever you're going. An all inclusive. You need to get off of the all inclusives.
Yeah.
You need to come here. And then when you're in the cities, the only way I can compare it for people, it's like this: if you move into if you're moving to Canada, let's say, there's a big difference between the GTA and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, or Hastings, Vancouver. You know what I mean? Like that's the diversity down here as well. There's everything from the ultra rich to the barrios. You know what I mean? But the safety down here, there's no comparison. Like there just isn't a comparison to the safety factor.
True. So something else that I think was touched on, but as it relates to folks, if they're going to be, moving back and forth with other locations, they've got retirement visas that an individual might need to apply for. Like, Belize has got one, Portugal. With Dominican Republic, does that exist? What are the criteria if somebody's going to stay beyond a 2-week vacation, right? Beyond 1 month sort of thing.
That's the beautiful thing about the DR. You don't actually need to have a visa to stay to overstay. There's an overstay tax that you pay at the airport when you want to leave. So after 30 days, there's a tax of it's 4,000 pesos, which is probably $100 Canadian, a little less than $100. I had a friend who stayed for 27 years without leaving, and he left. And ended up costing him $1,400 American. That was 27 years. Now, if you do want to become a resident, because you are going to be here full time, there are retirement options that help speed up the process. There are investment options that help speed up the process. And the thing is down here, realtors are a little bit different down here than in Canada. We're your first point of contact. So we're usually the ones that help you get your first car, we're more like a relocation specialist, I guess, more than just a real estate agent. We help you find your lawyers, we help you find your house, we help you find your groceries, everything you're looking for. So that's kind of what we do in our office.
Gotcha. So it's really, it's a lot more laid back, even with the immigration part. Because you're saying that the impact would be more of a fine or a small tax in a sense. People that might have to pay, they overpay. Not any extreme sort of immigration where they get confined. That's not something that you've seen. But then
we don't have
encourage
ICE.
people. Yeah, well, I would encourage people, if there is a process, go through and get the get the residency. If you can, right? So in terms of, and I'm gonna just keeping an eye on time. I'm gonna open up for questions pretty soon, just so folks can kind of pose specific questions about Dominican Republic. But I don't know if do you have any listing that you can probably show people just to kind of give them an idea of
So
here's
for great, we have my website has great resources on it.
Okay,
we can share that in the group. It's realtorguard.com. Also in that, it's not just a website with listings. There's a resource section, so it shows you how to buy, how to sell down here. We have a lot of blogs and a lot of videos of how to relocate and what relocation looks like. The schooling system. I seen that there was some stuff on healthcare. Healthcare is very good down here.
Yes.
Because
that's an important one.
It's based on it's based on the national income. A lot of people come down here for dentistry as well. Very, very good dentists down here.
And these are US dollar prices, right?
These are all USD. Yep.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'm gonna open it up then for questions, just because we have a good amount of people that have joined, so there might be more questions than usual. So
absolutely,
if you've got a question, then you can kind of use the raise hand feature, and I will unmute.
You know what? That's a great question. Lots there. So let's do it from the top. So there is when you purchase a property here, there is a tax when you buy it. It's a 3% land transfer. Um, can Canadians own property? Yes. The Dominican Republic has some of the best foreign ownership laws. So you have the same rights as a naturalized Dominican when it comes to owning property and banking. So it's very safe. It's a good system. It's done in an electronic form, and then there's also like the surveys done in an electronic form, GPS form as well. HOAs exist when you're in communities. So if you're in a community, there are rules within those communities, and the HOAs are set through those communities as maintenances. And then for a yearly tax, there's a 1% yearly tax on the property, on the registered value of the property, which is never, it's never the purchase price. It's always, because they always do kind of like a double contract where it's the value of the land plus the contents inside. Most homes here, I would say over 90%, unless it's brand new, come fully furnished. So when you see those prices, it's move-in. Those are move-in prices, turnkey.
Here's one HOA. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at your website. Let me find a different one. Got you.
Does that answer all your questions there? I mean, you had a few in there, so I just want to make sure.
Great question. Royal Bank is not there within the Canadian context. Scotiabank is there. Royal Bank, we do assist where here's where we help. We help individuals prior to them going, where they were looking at within your finances, your assets, your income from pensions, what kind of lifestyle can you sustain so that the individual doesn't overspend, maybe by buying at $1 million when they should have really bought at 700,000, for example, right? So that's one of the key things where we play a role. Financing is done here on assets that are in Canada. But we do financing in the US, but not in Dominican Republic currently.
I have a lot of connections with good rental management companies and stuff down here that I can assist you with. There's a lot of Airbnb rentals down here as well. I personally don't. I have 42 agents that work for me in my office, and some of them have their own property management. So I can help you, definitely point you in the right direction. Yeah, I was just so you know, I was a police officer for 20 years in Canada before I moved down here, and it's one of the safest places I've ever been. I've traveled all over the world. It might not like it because it because it is an emerging market and stuff like that. It might look like it's, oh, this looks like a rough area and stuff. It's not. It's just it's a very, very safe place to be. And everything that you ever see on the news and stuff like that, it usually gets blown out of proportion. Like there's if you're looking for trouble, you'll always find it. But I've never had any real incidences down here. Traffic is probably the biggest issue. Just bad drivers, and that's where you see a lot of the issues would be, traffic accidents and things like that. Or you'll hear about the odd incident that'll happen that comes out of, a drunk tourist doing something they shouldn't. Like I said, if you're looking for trouble, you'll find it. But in most cases, if you're just coming down here living your life, it's going to be very, very safe and very simple.
That
I
just
can
got
finish that
raised.
real quick. Yeah, it depends on your skill level of driving, and if it depends on your movement. I recommend having a vehicle, just just because there's so much to see here. It's a very large island, and there's a lot to see and do.
No problem. Thanks, Johnny. And then this is just something I'll share with you here real quick as well. Um, which is, and I'll send this to you, everybody, by email. What we do when we're trying to help people to analyze, we call it our My GPS. We help people look at their goals, priorities, and figure out solutions to get towards that. So that's what we'll typically do prior to people pulling the trigger.
No, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to have a retirement visa for down here. There's a tax if you overstay. So depending on what your travel or what your lifestyle is going to look like, will depend on that. And you can apply for residency. It doesn't matter if you're investing or not. The investment helps out. It expedites it. But if you're over 65, that also expedites it as well. So employment opportunities down here.
Yes.
You know what? If you're an entrepreneur, this is a good place to be an entrepreneur. This is a good place for cyber nomads, if you can work remotely, and this is a good place to do real estate. It's a good place for that, like real estate development, things of that nature. If you're getting into the local market, the wages here are quite low. An average wage down here would be about $600 US per month. So unless you're an entrepreneur and a business person, that I wouldn't do. But as a person looking to retire, like I said, my story is that I bought my first property here 23 years ago. And it wasn't that I was able to afford it. I made myself afford it, right? It was a hotel bar. So I didn't earn particularly any money from it while I was over those 20 years. I used that as a anchor point, and then it paid itself off, so that when I was part of my retirement plan. So anyone who's, in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, or even 50s, that are like, on their way to retirement, it's good. It's a good place if you buy the right property and rent that property out, because the properties here don't rent out just in the winter time. That's the high season. But if you purchase the right properties, they rent out year round, right? And you use that rental to offset the cost of the purchase. In most cases, you can break even on that. Sometimes you can make a bit of money on that, depending on what your mortgage is and what your payments are and stuff like that. But there's a lot of ways to step up the property ladder. I had a nurse who was able to come up with $250,000 US. In the last 7 years, I've taken her from the 250,000 up to an oceanfront property, 2 townhouses, and 750,000 in her bank account. So if you're willing to do the flipping and moving and renting and getting into the property ladder, there's a lot of opportunity here. Yeah, absolutely. If you go onto our website and look at the blogs and things on the website, and also our Instagram page, if you go on there, there's always daily updates and things like that. And if you need, you can contact me anytime, and you can get my number and contact from Orlando.
And I'm gonna put it on the
you.
screen at the end too as well. And thanks for joining, Said. Getting information early, never too early. No, we're not involved with the purchase in Dominican Republic. We're a lot more involved. I'll tell you where we're really involved. The jurisdictions we're really involved is in the U.S. We're clients, if they're gonna buy property in Dominican Republic, they'll sometimes get a line of credit against a Canadian property, and RBC is fully involved with that, which the funds can be used for anything, renovation, investing in the stock market, investing in a property in Dominican Republic. But as it relates to the actual transaction in Dominican Republic, in the same way as if, whether somebody's doing a transaction in Portugal, we're not involved in that transaction.
Okay.
I can answer that. So that's where we come in. Like I said, here as realtors here, we're not like traditional real estate agents back in Canada, the United States. We're more transitional lifestyle. We're here to assist. So we have lawyers that we use, we recommend for our buyers that work with us, and they're very used to dealing with Canadians and Americans. Obviously, the purchasing laws and stuff are all based in the Dominican Republic when purchasing in the Dominican Republic. But foreign ownership is you get, like I said before, you own your land. There's no intermediary that you have to go through, or 99-year leases. You own it outright. You have a title, just like back home. You have a survey on your property, just like back home, and it's very secure. No one can take it from you. You have the same rights as a Dominican person when it comes to owning property and banking.
The only financial institution, which again, because of the, you know, within the Canadian financial sector, Scotiabank is the one that has the biggest reach in the Latin American and the Caribbean. Scotia does have a presence there. RBC's got presence in Bahamas, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica as well, but not Dominican Republic.
Absolutely. Yeah, we come up with all the options and creative ways to get that completed. There's a lot of private financing and stuff that happens down here, but also we work with certain companies and banks and things like that to try and get that. The financing here is a lot harder than in Canada and the US. But we have a very, very good banking system that's backed by our gold that we have on the island. Because of what happened here back in like the 70s and stuff, this was part of like the cocaine highway. So they imposed a lot of very strict laundering rules and things like that. And because of that, and lending rules, because of that, it strengthened our market and our banking system to a very, very, very high degree, which is really good. But that being said, it's 70% loan to value down here for foreign buyers. Which is a little bit different than back home. But private financing, we can make anything happen with private financing. So yeah, I know the Mexican market, I'm not the greatest. I know quite a bit about it, but we are probably a little bit cheaper than Playa del Carmen. It's not free to live in the Dominican Republic in the tourist areas, right? But it is a little bit cheaper. You will find it to be a little bit cheaper, but it's not. Let's say 20 years ago, you used to be able to get a beer on the beach for 50 pesos, or 20 cents Canadian or whatever. Now it's more like $2-3 for a beer on the beach and stuff like that. If that's the
And does the price vary Punta Cana versus the other towns, right? That's the other thing.
Even where you are, yeah, your geographic location matters. Like if you're in a tourist area, you're gonna pay tourist prices. It's like the best way I can compare it is Las Vegas. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, you have the Strip, and then you have Fremont Street. When you find Fremont Street, things become very, very cheap down here. But if you're going to be on the Strip and you're going to be in the tourist areas and stuff like that, it can be expensive. But when you live here, you're not so much in the tourist area for the tourist things. You can go to the beach, like you'll go to the beach and things like that, but you'll know, okay, well, I'll bring my beer to the beach. I'm not going to be buying from the vendors, because you live here. You bring a cooler to the beach like you would back home. You start living. I guess a good comparison is if you've ever lived at the lake or you've had lake life. It's like living at the lake. If you go and you have a cabin and you are, if you're up there and you're going to all the cabin resort bars and things like that, it's expensive. But if you're living out of your cabin and you're buying your own beer and things like that, the lake becomes, as cheap as living at home. So it can be very dynamic, right? It's a little cheaper than Mexico though, still. Our golf course, we have some very, very, very beautiful golf courses down here. The golf course I was mentioning is up on the north coast, which is called Playa Dorada. When you're in Punta Cana, if you want to golf, you want to be down in Punta Cana. We're building actually 4 golf courses here right now as we speak. So there will be some nice ones on the north coast. But when you move down here and you become a citizen or a property owner, you can apply for something called Fedo Golf, which is the Golf Federation card. And so, for instance, when because I go to Punta Cana and golf quite often, we don't pay anywhere near what the tourists pay. So, Hard Rock, I was at Hard Rock a couple of weeks ago. Hard Rock is, I think, $390 a round, all inclusive for a tourist. But when you have a Fedo card, it's $70, all inclusive. When you go to PGA Ocean 4, which is another very, very beautiful course, I think that one too is around $300 or $400 a round. We pay a Barrow Star. Like we pay probably a quarter to a fifth of what the cost is for golf. And then I can show you how to get that. Those cards are $100 a year to be a golf member. And some of the golf courses, you get one free round at the golf course as well. We do live in the Dominican Republic, so the rules are very, very flexible. It's not supposed it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be a a resident
Okay.
here, but most likely you'd be able to get a card if you were here for an extended period of time. Like if you're coming for a week or 2 weeks, you're not going to get it, right? But if you're here for like 3-4 months a year and you're continually coming, people start recognizing you as kind of like a local, like a gringo local, and you'd definitely be able to get your card. It has the most variety to golf right now, because I mean they have their golf courses are absolutely premium golf courses anywhere you go in the world. Like you can go, like Tooth of the Dog is probably nicer than Pebble Beach. There's 16 holes on the water. Corrales, Barrow Star, like they're beautiful, 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 beautiful golf courses. You're welcome.
Thanks for joining. Good to hear that you're a golfer as well. So just looking at time and Bryce, definitely you touch on a whole lot of stuff. Touch on the crime, touch on the real estate price. You got into renting versus buying. Most people are leaning towards renting first, at least, which is a safer, more low risk way to sort of approach things. And again, the way we operate, we always try to focus on being more conservative in our approach. So certainly, definitely, I think that's the way that most people would like to go. And then if they're, staying there long term and deciding to really, plant roots, then the option is there to purchase. Financing, that question came up. Like I said, RBC is present in some locations. We're not in the Dominican Republic. Bahamas for sure. We actually have mortgage specialists, RBC mortgage specialists on the ground in Bahamas, if that's ever a location, but not currently for Dominican Republic. Not to say that won't be the case in the future, but that's not how it is right now. Most Canadians will borrow against a property here. That's a way to sort of pull equity from a property, or some are selling and moving down. And then we help with the management of these investments. So we do help clients that have liquid assets that we can generate an income from to support their lifestyle. And again, but the first thing we'll do is really look at the big picture, analyze assets, liabilities, income, and then also see what gaps that might exist. And they can draw from even insurance-based assets. People can draw an income from as well. So with that, I really am happy that folks are able to join. I haven't looked outside to see what the weather is. Hopefully it's not too bad. Really good questions. You're very engaged, and I'll send out an email with, again, Brett's information, and he's teasing us. Okay, the blinds are down. I'm not gonna move them. And I'll send out as well field information. And this is a starting point. So for many, it's possibly a starting point. Do your due diligence. Visit, because these are big decisions. But we just want to, again, support the goals that people might have, and at least help you to get you just that much closer towards even narrowing down your list, right? A few folks said it's on the top 5. So you're looking at other options. Last year we did Mexico, Portugal, we looked at. We'll do a different location next year. And with that, bid everyone farewell. Again, always open to any questions that you might have. Take care. Brett, thank you so much.
No problem.
It's been a pleasure. All right. Yeah, you're getting thumbs up. So you did good on the hot seat. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks,
Take care.
Brett.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, guys.
You're welcome. If anyone has any questions, obviously just give them my number, and slow is fast.
Yeah,
it's a marathon, not a sprint, and people need to take their time, and they'll.
And I'll send Brett's email, phone number, Instagram link. And actually, when I did talk to him a couple of weeks ago, he was on a golf course at the time, so you have to call him back. So he's there pretty often.
Real.
Oh well, look.
It's real.
All right.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.